You're watching The Edward Fowler Show. Now, here's your host, Edward Fowler.
Good evening. Welcome to my show here live on YouTube. I hope you're all having a great evening. It's very hot here this evening in good old Manchester, England, and I am happy to have on a great singer slash songwriter who is, I guess, South African heritage. That's where he's from, but he does live over here, I believe, and he's a great blues slash rock singer, and it's fun how he's able to bring both worlds together. And please welcome to the show this evening, Was Harding. Welcome to the show.
Edward, thank you so much for having me, and to the viewers and listeners, very good evening to you guys as well. Thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. I think it's a bit short notice, for me to have you on my show tonight. Hope everything is well where you are.
Yeah, everything is very well. Thank you so much. And like I said, really happy to be here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, we're already here now, the 1st of August. Happy New Month to everybody as well, if you're watching this or listening to this. And, don't you think that this year has flown by? And what a year it's been for you, I guess.
I was just going to say now, it's crazy that it's the 1st of August already. And I know talking about the weather and talking about time is a cliche thing that we do, or at least that adults do. But it's always crazy when you think about how fast everything goes by, and it kind of puts into perspective how much we need to try to be in the moment, and just try to be present with what's going on, because otherwise you just miss that. Yeah,
no, I agree with you there, because you've had a fantastic year so far. Of course, you had a great music Deluxe. You had that came out, Thousand Snakes, which came out in March, and now you've got this other version coming out as well, which is coming out later on.
Yeah.
Tell us about it. What's made you to how was the release in March? What was the feedback on that from your fans? And tell us about, as well as we can show right now on your screen, the A Thousand Snakes Deluxe version. What can fans expect from that as well?
Well, initially what happened when I was putting a lot of this music together, it's been a project that I've been working on for about a year, maybe a year and a half. And essentially the concept that would be the entirety of this music release was a way for me to showcase perhaps a side of my music that I haven't really been able to dive into just yet. And that comes from a position of recording a lot of hard rock music and kind of heavy blues rock music with this darker kind of element, but always doing it with an electric band kind of setting. I did a lot of gigging in South Africa initially as a trio, so it would be basically myself on guitar, and vocals, with a really good bass player and a drummer. What happened is when I started performing as a solo artist, I of course started diving into solo settings, if that makes sense. So acoustic guitar, right?
Yeah.
And I really started working at that. And the strange thing that happened was that live environment actually kind of influenced the way I play, if that makes sense. It wasn't from like an upbringing in terms of music or a stylistic thing that happened that I wanted to present to audiences initially. It's kind of like a loop, if that makes sense. I went and played that music live, and the way that music was presented kind of influence the way that other music is presented. And I was like, there's this whole discography and there's this whole thing in my style that I haven't actually represented in the recorded music that I've released just yet. And that's become a major influence in the way that I think about music, the way that I record and the way that I perform, of course. And so with that being said, what I wanted to do was take acoustic songs and really strip down ideas and present that to listeners. Now, not to kind of mislead the listener into the sense that these songs are just vocals and acoustic. I mean, the deluxe version of A Thousand Snakes, although is at its core an acoustic song, we really went to town with the production. So it's got drums and bass and vocal layers and slide guitars. There's probably just the guitars alone. There's probably 6 different guitar tracks. I borrowed some awesome old school like slide guitars that I wanted to record for this, and it really took us some time and effort to get this deluxe version out. And I think that's why, in terms of the timeline and the way that the music's been released, that's why it took longer, because it was actually easier to finish the more simple electric version that we've kind of figured out. We could kind of do that first, and it took a lot of work to get the flavor of this tune out. And the way that it came out, personally, I'm super proud of. I think the guys that I worked with in the studio in Johannesburg, a studio called Studio 31, I think between myself and Merrick and Ruan, who are the studio owners, I just think that it was one of the moments with music where I felt that what I was hearing in my mind came out exactly in the recording. And that's quite rare, to be able to translate the creative process from your mind to the guitar and then to the listener. A lot of times something in that chain becomes tweaked, and may not exactly. Sometimes it takes on a better, admittedly, sometimes it takes on a slightly better version. Sometimes you really have to fight for, to find that thing that was the essence. A lot of times you can also go off on a tangent and it kind of loses itself, especially with simple music. And I think what I've tried to do with all the Ross Harding music is make it as simple as possible in its essence. Can I do this with an acoustic guitar, and does it translate to an audience? And if that's the case, then I think that the songs will be able to translate in different formats and in different environments.
Yeah, and we've only got 15 days before we get to hear it, and I bet that's coming around quite fast as well. August, it comes out August 16th, which is a great Friday. We're going to welcome a weekend in just under 2 weeks' time when it comes out, and I am hoping that the fans will love it, and even new fans discover you and also love the track. Do you think that the message within it will translate to your viewers and your fans, and hopefully share it to a wider audience to help you grow to end the year on a positive note?
I'm having a little chuckle to myself regarding the question, because I think isn't that the key, in being able to aptly describe something and allow a listener to personalize that. So I do tend to write with some kind of message in mind, but as I've said in previous interviews and chats similar to this one, I do tend, when the music has been released, I do tend to try to let go of it as much as I can and allow the listener to personalize that as much as possible, because really that's going to be what makes that song resonate with audiences or not. So of course I do have my own preferences and influences and artistic endeavors that I want to pursue and that I want to unleash in my music. And those come from a lot of different places. That it could be the old school blues stuff, all the way through to talking from a musical perspective. That is, it could be from old school blues like Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and Son House, all the way through to stuff like Led Zeppelin. And I think a lot of fans who know me already know that I'm heavily influenced by Chris Cornell and Soundgarden. So that's the kind of musical place that I come from. But lyrically and artistically, there are loads of abstract ideas that I tend to write on. Sometimes those are questions, and sometimes those are things that I'm not even really sure how to verbalize. Philosophical ideas, maybe even stories, or something that's just resonated from a book that I've read or a film that I've watched. And again, you know, whether I'm pushing some sort of agenda in the music or not isn't always clear, even to myself, because of the fact that I do think allowing art to resonate with people does require a degree of almost of the unknown.
Yeah.
Especially in this format. You know, of course, certain types of music, like punk rock, for example, at least old school punk rock, has a definite kind of approach, you know, sticking it to the system, or commentary on politics, etc. Where I have done that in my music to a degree, but never so blatantly and in your face, because of an agenda or a notion that I have.
Yeah.
It's always a little bit more metaphorical, because that seems to be the realm of creation that I kind of thrive in, and that seems to be the art that kind of resonates to me as well. Always has a bit more of a fluid and adaptable meaning, so to speak, than something that's very precise and kind of cut and dry.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And, you know, you don't know, as you mean about politics as well, you, of course, don't want to give it in your face, because you don't want to, you know, try to, I guess, persuade people to vote a certain way, because you want them to make their own minds as well, don't you, type thing, without being too political in your music compared to other people. And I guess as well, because we got to address the elephants in the room. Maybe people might be tuning in and thinking, wow, you've got a good, like, disco vibe going on in where you're joining us from. I do like the purple lightning and all the cool pictures you got on. And
you mean the setting in the room? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
I put a fair amount of effort into presentation, as you can tell. It's really important to me. And
it's funky.
Yeah, thank you. I think you only have one chance to make a first impression, you know, and so that's a lot. That's body language, through to the words that you use, through to the imagery that you see, right? To create something that is meaningful and that has impact.
Yeah.
And you really only get one chance at that, you know. So I definitely, not only in my music, in everything, you know, whether it's artwork for a gig poster, or the way that the band presents themselves on stage, presentation is something super important to me, because, like I said, it's. I think it also shows a bit of self-respect, you know, and it shows a little bit of self-awareness, and in turn, especially as a performer, it can actually show respect to the audience. You know, I'm here and I've rocked up and I've put in effort into this, you know, and at least I know I've done my part in being able to serve the audience from that perspective. You know, they know that when they come to a show or something, that they're there. You know, there's no guessing about, like, is a serious musician or not. You know, I really try to put myself forward in that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely, it's good. And of course, if you're not watching on YouTube, you're listening to on the podcast, you should check out the video version, because you can understand what we're talking about regarding what's itself. I got to ask, did it take you a long time to do all this cool, I guess, get everything correct for this, or did it take you a few hours, or maybe even a few days or something to get to your liking? Or
yes, technically, in a way, it's actually been a few years.
Oh right, okay.
What you're seeing here is a collection of art and music, of course, that I've been working on for a number of years. So you can't really see it now in the screen, but there's a photo of some guitars and stuff that I like over here. This on the side is actually a gift that my wife had made for me of a vinyl in a really special cover of my old band called Black Harbor, which is, of course, a very potent part of my life, you know, in terms of my progression as a musician and where I was going, you know, where I was at the time and where I was going to.
Yeah.
And the other stuff is a little bit of DIY wallpaper, man. I just put it up, and I'm so glad that you mentioned it, actually, because it is deliberate. You know, these things are deliberate, and the way that we, like I said, the way that we put all these things together does have an impact.
Well, again, as you mentioned, about first impressions, and I think you're the first guest to make it a very unique entrance. I like it, and it stands out in a good way, not a bad way, in a good way, and I really like that. That's why I'll bring it up, because I know if I don't personally bring it up, somebody in the future will say, why didn't you not ask about his setup of him joining us? I thought I'll mention that before I'll be the first.
Well, I'm really glad that you brought it up, because it means it has done its job.
Yes.
Which is create some sort of conversational piece or just provoke something, right?
Exactly.
It gives a little bit more insight into me as well, you know, and my music. And that's, I suppose it's a little, now that you've asked me, I've pointed out that these things have got some personal, I mean, the guitar that I've got over here is twofold. It's because I always have a guitar lying around.
Why not?
Somewhere.
Why not?
Always, everywhere in the house, excuse me, there's always guitars lying around, because that's kind of how I find time to practice. So there is a I'm not going to lie and just say that, you know, they're just decorative. They do lie around the house, because that's how I find time to practice. You know, if they're packed away in cases and stuff. Even as a full-time musician, I don't really make enough time to just practice the instrument as I probably could, because you gig and you work and you're playing on stage, etc. But I'm still I love this. You know, I love music, and I still am pursuing, you know, the mastery of my craft, and so that takes effort, you know, that takes energy.
Yeah, absolutely, and I like how you do have them around as well, because many people have in cases and just use them whenever they're gigging or when they're recording it. So it's nice to see that. So does your wife, does she practice on these guitars around the house as well, or does yourself?
She doesn't anymore.
Oh.
Sometimes she'll just pick one up and have a little go. But that's actually how my wife and I met. Is from me being her guitar teacher online.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That's cool. How we met, and of course there was chemistry, and so the rest is history, as they say. But
indeed.
So the guitar and music has been, you know, the biggest part of my life in many, many aspects, outside of just what I do. You know, it's really something extremely internal in the way that my life works. You know, the inner cogs of how it functions.
Yeah. So would you say, who is the better guitarist then between you and your wife? Or is it too close to say?
No. My wife is still like very novice guitar player, so to her, you know, in her defense, that wouldn't be a justifiable
argument
comparison. You know, yeah. She's still. I mean, we met 4 years ago, so and I've been playing the guitar for 20 years. You know,
so the student is not outseated the teacher just yet. So
it's one of the few kind of intellectual pursuits where I have a bit of an edge over my wife. So I'm gonna try to keep it that way.
Fair enough. Well, I learned this recently. So of course we had a guest on a while ago called Dan Polanski. Yes, he was on the show. He was a cool guy, and I know you guys are kind of collabing together of sorts in the coming months. Tell us about how that happened, and I know you'll be appearing on Thursday, the 2nd of October, as well. So that's gonna be a cool upcoming show we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, tell us about you guys. It's cool that you guys are supporting each other as well, which is good to see.
Yeah, so I just want to make a small correction.
Yeah, you go ahead.
We did shows. I did some shows with Dan when he came to the UK in April.
Yeah.
So we don't have anything booked coming up, but the way that him and I started working together is about 5 or 6 years ago. First of all, I must say I'm a massive fan. And I've for about 10 years, I've been a huge fan. He's an outstanding musician and an absolutely phenomenal guitarist. And yeah, about 5 or 6 years ago, I had the opportunity to open some shows for him at a theater. And it was like, I might as well have been opening for like Led Zeppelin or something.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of monumental to me, And since then, I'm very lucky to say that Dan and I have become quite friendly, and so when he came over to the UK, we know each other from the South African industry, of course.
Yes, of course, yes. You guys
and so when I moved over to the UK and he was coming over with his band, I reached out to him and I said, I've just done this move and I would love to support you at some shows. And so he graciously obliged, and that's kind of been the relationship. I've been able to learn a lot by watching him and his performances, and just getting to know him on a more personal level. And that's been a very valuable relationship.
Yeah. So will we be seeing more crossovers and perhaps collabs for both of you in the near future, maybe as well?
Personally, I would love to. I would absolutely love to do that if and when things align.
Yeah.
Of course, both being from a blues background, and like I said, having to get to know him, there's definitely been synergy in other music and things that we're interested in. I know that both of us are massive Chris Cornell and Soundgarden fans and Led Zeppelin fans, so I definitely think there'd be musical synergy in that sense. And if that ever comes up, then absolutely, I would love to collaborate.
There we go. It's going to happen at some point,
we put that out there.
Yeah, it's
I'm
destined.
gonna have to forward this
clip.
this clip to him, and just say to him, look, it's on the internet now, man.
Yes.
Let's do something.
Yeah, let's do something.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait, and it's going to happen at some point. It might, even if it takes 10 years or 20 years, it's going to happen at some point, and it's going to be mind-blowing. It's going to be lit, and people are going to love it.
Oh, yeah.
But let's talk about, of course, you come up in, Thursday, the 2nd of October, you'll be opening up for Planet Rock favourite Jack J. Hutchinson at the Blackheart Camden in London. How did that happen? And I bet that's quite a good gig to be involved with as well. And he's quite a big guy, a big star, not a big guy as in the sense of size wise, but like in name size, he's quite a big name like yourself. So
He's present. Yeah. So I'll be honest, I only discovered his music when I moved over to the UK.
Right.
And that was through a person who's become a really good friend of mine now, Mr. Glenn Sargent, who's been assisting with the PR.
Yes, and
a lot of what I'm busy with.
Yeah.
Glenn is an absolute gem of a person and one of the hardest workers I've ever met. I've never met anybody who replies to an email faster than Glenn. And I know he has, and I know he has a million things going on. So, folks like that are just like, those kind of relationships are super valuable. So that's how, actually Glenn has been helping me with a ton of bookings and just working my way through the UK industry. And so one of the things that came up was this opportunity with Jack. And like I said, I've been put onto his music, and I think he's a fantastic artist, and I've got mad respect for the work ethic. You know, I've been seeing a lot of shows and touring and things that he's been doing, and it takes a lot of grit. You know, it takes being on the road, and it takes a lot of time. And so I'm just really looking forward to being able to do that show. Plus, I must add that before I moved over to the UK, the Black Art was, in doing research about the UK industry and venues and whatnot, the Black Art was a venue that kept coming up, and I was like, hey, I need to, as we say in South Africa, I need to make a turn there. Need to stop by and do something. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into other venues you will love to perform over here in the UK, but I've got to give a shout out to Glenn. Of course, he's made this possible between us, by the way. So shout out to Glenn. So this might be the last time I'm out with him. Hopefully not, if this goes downhill, but it won't go downhill. I got to mention, so you mentioned about that venue where you'll be performing in the 2nd of October. Great way to begin, because of course on another, this is very similar, it's very odd, you know, you've got the 2nd of October, then you've also got the 2nd of February. That's very strange, you know, like within a few months you're performing on another 2nd, but on the 2nd of I guess February of next year, can't be 2025, I guess your band, the Autostic, will be with special guest Luke James Williams will be, of course, headlining the event in Stoke-on-Trent. Of course, ticket prices are £15.40 at the moment, each including fees. Tickets will be on sale on Friday, the 16th of August at midnight, the same day as your new Deluxe.
I actually didn't know that, so you've shared that information with me now. So
it has to be. It's in the. It has to happen the same day as your new single. It's going to be a Thousand Snakes Deluxe version. You can buy tickets to see you on the 2nd of February.
Yeah. So we've been
spooky.
There will be sort of shows in between that time as well. But we've been focusing on really what we've been doing from a strategic perspective. Not to bore people with this kind of admin too much, but from a strategic perspective, of course, there's a ton of rehearsals and so forth that need to happen. Yeah. So I am doing shows in 2024. At various venues throughout the UK, but they're coming up a little bit more sporadically because, like I said, it's more taking these gigs on merit and seeing what works. But really what we're doing has been focusing on the 2025 schedule because it takes time to put all of this together. You know, there's the behind the scenes effort is immense. I don't think people actually realize how much it takes to get bookings done, touring schedules, rehearsals, recordings, PR, like so much that needs to happen. So there's also a ton of shows that I'm doing in 2025 that are solo. There's a couple of band shows as well. And like I said, ones that come up that we feel, you know, a couple of gig offers and so forth that we feel are, that we can make work.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to, you know, like, just based on the conversation we've had now about presentation, etc., you can understand where I'm kind of coming from, where we decide not to take on some work or take on some performances because we take it really seriously. We want to make sure that the quality level is as high as we can, you know. But we've got a lot on the bubble for 2025, which I'm really, really excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you can find out all the latest events and where you'll be appearing and all that good stuff, I guess, on your website, which is of course washardingmusic.com, or on your social media, which is of course, which you can tell me where you can find yourself on social media. We got your Facebook, Wash Harding Official, also on Instagram. I know you're on Threads. You're also on TikTok and YouTube as well, and of course wherever else you stream music, you can get Wash Harding on there.
The very, very easiest thing for folks to do is visit the website and then just click your favorite streaming platform or social media platform, etc. You know, let's try to make it as user friendly as possible.
And I guess as well with all your latest albums and singles and shows where you'll be appearing at between now and the beginning of 2025 will be listed as well on your website, which is of course www.washardingmusic.com, and that is the efficient way to go. As well, you can just search Wash Harding on Google, and his website does come up as well that way. But no, it's been great, and I can't wait to see what is in store for the rest of your year, I guess, because maybe 5 months or something left now, 5 or 4 months to go before the end of the year, before it'll be Christmas.
It's nearly it's August, so it's like 4.5 months, and then it's Christmas time.
Boom. And before you know it, you'll be performing in Stoke-on-Trent before you know it.
And hopefully Wembley Stadium.
Yes. Well, speaking about that, so you obviously Wembley Stadium's on your list. Is to hopefully perform in front of us, hopefully somewhere in Manchester as well.
Oh, absolutely. Since this might isolate a whole bunch of people. I hope not. But we grew up Manchester United fans.
Yes, there we go. Yes,
and
love it.
In South Africa, as football fans,
yes,
you'd be privy to watching like the big leagues, so the Premier League, etc. And of course, you become influenced by those, by those teams. So Manchester United was the team in our house.
Good.
And
are you still a fan? Or
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And my brother, my younger brother, is a way bigger fan than I am, and he went to watch. I'm just trying to remember one of the matches that he went to watch recently. That's like a dream come true kind of situation for him. So of course, when I come up to Manchester, I need to visit the stadium as well and get involved in a little bit more of the football. But from a musical perspective, Manchester's got a long history and is super rich in terms of the music and culture and art that's come from that city. So I haven't been to Manchester just yet, but absolutely, it's high on the priority of performance schedules and visiting.
Good, because I think you will have a fantastic time in our city and able to perform in some of the great venues we have, as well as plenty of them. And you never know, you might get to perform in the Co-op Live arena at some point as well, which is apparently the biggest in the UK now.
Yeah, from your mouth to God's ears. That would be amazing.
Yes, or even performing in Old Trafford football ground, or even or even the cricket ground as well, because they do some concerts at the cricket ground at Old Trafford at the where the England cricket team plays sometimes, as well as the Lancashire team as well for the cricket.
Who knows where this goes, right? You just keep doing the work, and so far the UK has been really, really kind to me.
Good.
I must say, we've only my family and I have only been in the UK since March. So we're still pretty new here. Yeah, I've visited the UK a bunch of times, and I've got some family and that kind of thing here. That's cool. We're quite new to the UK, and has been residents. And like I said, the UK has been really, really kind to us, and I've just been like a little kid. Been there. I went to the Royal Albert Hall to watch Dave Matthews.
Oh yeah.
And I got to long story. Just to cut a long story short, I know somebody from the South African industry who knows Dave very well. And so my wife and I were able to get backstage and meet and greet, etc. at the Royal Albert Hall, which was the first time I went to the theatre. And it was literally a dream of mine to go there. So that just I actually, during the whole process, I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe it. It took me a few days to just kind of wow, that was insane. Yeah, that was insane. So I think the Royal Albert Hall has been. I just watched so many live, DVDs and things from there, and that's at the top of my list of dream venues to perform at.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you get to do that, because it's a historic place to perform, and lots of legends have gone through there. So we can't wait to see when your name gets added to that list of legends to be able to perform in that venue as well. And I've got to mention before we leave, because the people out there wanted to know this, I'm sure, but you never know, there might not be, your love for tattoos as well.
I think it's been a developing hobby.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, is it a hobby, or is it? This is such a great topic. By the way, so this is the first time I'm actually sharing this in a public space. Okay. So on your show, I'm gonna be hosting. So there is a reason behind the presentational wall backdrop that you see, which is because I'm going to be doing my own podcast, where we will be covering these types of topics, tattoos to music to recording to mental health and all kinds of things. And tattoo culture has been something that's really fascinated me. And of course, from an artistic perspective, as well as a kind of lifestyle perspective, I think tattoos and music have always been very, very closely linked. And so it's something that I really hope to be able to converse about in more depth going forward. But yeah, as you can see, I'm a little bit of an addict, and we've still got some space on the body. I've been giving it a break because I'm like, if I just get fully chopped up really quickly, then well, I'm not gonna. That's going to be that, you know.
Yeah.
So you kind of want to allow it to have some breathing room with you as you develop in your tastes and meet awesome artists and so forth as well.
What do you think is being the inspiration for people to get tattoos recently? Because I feel like in the last 2 or 3 years, I think that there's loads more people now getting tattoos than I've ever seen in my whole lifetime. What do you think is behind that? From where you are from originally, and as well, but when you've been, I guess, walking around the streets of the UK, I guess, as well, because I'm sure you've seen lots of people.
Plenty. I have I've thought about this question in quite a lot of depth.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a number of reasons why tattoos are so popular. I think that from a more surface level, it's been people that are very influential have portrayed tattoos in a very positive light, as opposed to the old school kind of mentality about tattoos that, like, you know, they belong to people in, you know, with like criminal backgrounds and that kind of thing. You know, I think those notions have faded, and shows like Miami Ink and those kind of big TV shows definitely did something to add to that.
Yeah.
But from a very personal perspective, or a human perspective, I think that tattoos are very much a statement about oneself, you know, an expression of oneself in a very unique way. Even tattoos that are kind of common, you know, tattoos that a lot of people get. Like I know, like, a lot of my tattoo artist friends kind of despise doing little infinity signs and like the kind of cliche stuff. But those things are really important to people, you know. They can really, to use a pun, they can really put a stamp on something that's in one's mind, you know, that a person wants to display publicly, you know, and kind of make a statement. I mean, I don't think that my tattoos go unnoticed, you know. Like, for me to kind of be in an instance where I think that nobody notices that I have tattoos, or, you know, would be kind of silly. It's definitely a statement.
Yeah.
You know, it definitely says something, and I think that is the main reason, is that it does say something about you that you can't really say with body language, or you can't say with words, or you know, you can't really get across in any other way than making something as making a statement as bold as getting a, a tattoo or a lot of tattoos. So
Yeah.
I think that's, especially in this like changing world where things are crazy, things are like really crazy. It kind of solidifies ideas,
No, it
Um,
does. It does, and I feel like it's in the trend at the moment as well, with people getting lots of tattoos, and I've seen it in my whole lifetime. By the way, I again just show my age. I've only been on for 25 years, and I feel like in the last 25 years, I've seen more tattoos in the last 2 or 3 years than I've done in the whole 20 odd years.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there's something about the trend at the moment in the fashion, isn't it? But
Definitely fashionable. Yeah, yeah. So that's why I said, like, on a more surface level, I do think it's a like a kind of fashion statement. Um, and like I grew up with a mate whose older brother was very influential on us because he was a skateboarder, and this is 20 years ago, and he was already covered in tattoos then.
yeah,
And so I've never really thought about how that influenced me in terms of tattoos. But if I think about it retrospectively, I'm sure that had something to do with it, because I had respect for this guy who I thought was the coolest dude. He just had something about him that I respected as a young kid, and so maybe that's had something to do with it as well. But he would have been part of the last kind of group of people who were still kind of ostracized in a way, or just more generally speaking about their tattoos. And I definitely think that's faded as it becomes so present in media and film and sports. I mean, I remember a time where you would not see any cricket players with tattoos, and now, even sports like that, football,
yeah.
cricket, rugby, whatever, there's a lot of tattoos within those cultures as well. And it definitely has done something to influence a lot of people, lots and lots of people.
No, it does. It does, and maybe even your friend from back in 20 years ago, maybe he knew that someday tattoos would be a trend and be in fashion. Maybe.
Maybe. Like I've never this. By the way, Edward, I must say this conversation has been really, really enjoyable for me because it's been a couple of things that I've kind of had to verbalize that I haven't really thought about.
Yes, that's the beauty of my show, because I try and make this show different and interesting and not just ask the same boring questions which you probably get asked on any other similar show you have.
Yeah, I got a lot of respect for that, and I think from that perspective, it's been an absolute pleasure to just think about things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
These are what make this is. My wife and I always talk about it. Like, it's hard, especially in music. It's hard to give people a broader vision of what goes on inside an artist's mind.
Yeah.
And creating that world takes a lot of time. It takes conversations, and it takes energy to let all people, in fact, not only artists, all people are extremely multifaceted. And if you give anybody on the street who you come in contact with a little bit of time and you actually listen to what they have to say, you'll be surprised at how interesting human beings are. Yeah. Everybody, people are very, very interesting.
No, I agree. They are, and I think that's a good way to stop right there, I guess. in a good way. It's a good way to sign it off. And I have to say as well, because we've got to mention this again. We've got to plug this because why not? It's of course Was Harding, who's been on the show tonight, a fantastic guest. Fowler and Snakes Deluxe version comes out on August 16th. Everywhere, so we look forward to hearing all the great reaction you receive for that. I'm sure the fans, as we mentioned before, will love it. Before we wrap this up, is there anything else you would like to mention or get off your chest, which you think is very important to, which I might not have brought up, which you think is very important to do so? So I will give you the final word to you before I wrap this up.
No, I think we've covered a lot of ground, and what I always like to do in these instances is really just thank everybody who's been involved for for putting this all together, and of course to the old fans who've been sticking it out with me for a long time. I'm super grateful, and to the folks who've just joined, maybe even from the show today, welcome. I hope to see you at a show real soon, and I thank you for your support, and yeah, I'm looking forward to building a relationship with you as well.
Yes, absolutely, and I hope you'll come back on my show again as well at some point.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes, because by the way, I did not prep those questions to get your mind working. These just came to me as we were just talking. That's because I don't script this show. I have the general topics of plugging your stuff, obviously, but that's about it. Nothing else just comes to me as we just talk. That's the beauty of this show. I don't like to have this all scripted out, like word for word or topic by topic. I let it lead to wherever.
Yeah, we were winging it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we use that term in the UK? Wing it?
Well, I just call it an off the cuff conversation. We can call it winging it. I think much.
You say we're winging it. Yeah. Just wing it.
Yeah. Well, on that note, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to smash that like button, share the video around, tell me about Ross Harding, tell about how a fantastic blues/rock musician he is with his fantastic set of guitars which are around his house, and I'm sure his neighbours love it when they try to have a go, maybe as well. Maybe they come around and have a go with this guitar.
I haven't got any complaints just yet, so we'll see.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed the episode, leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. Leave any future questions for Wasp, because he's publicly said he will come back on the show, and we love when people say. I love when people say they'll come back on the show publicly. So
or even just but also if folks have something pressing, or something that they really want, to get, just tag me in something, or send me a personal message, and we really do endeavor to just reply as much as we can and really build personal relationships with folks. So if there's something that anything, you want to know about a show or something, just send us a message, leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, there you go. And if you're new around here and you may come from this show because of Ross Harding, because you're a fan of his work and thought, you know what, this guy is quite good at what you're doing here, like off the cuff conversation, getting people to actually think for a change. He's having a usual rehearsal robotic responses. So if you enjoyed all of that and want to see more of my content, then you should subscribe. It takes 10 seconds or less to do so. 256 of you have subscribed, which I really appreciate. Also quite strange that people actually subscribe to see this little show, but I appreciate that. So if you are wanting to press it now. Don't be too late, because you never know who will be on the show next. And as I said, Ross Harding is always welcome on the show, as well as the guy who got it all together, Glenn Sargent. Another shout out to him as well. I'm sure he might email me soon by saying, please don't give me all these shout outs. It's not necessary. Until the next one.
Yeah. Glenn, he deserves it, because he's super modest, but he's an absolute legend.
Yes, well, you're here first, Glenn. You're here first. And until the next episode, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening or afternoon.